Alright, sorry about the background noise. This isn't going to be the best quality video since I'm not editing it, but I picked up a Nikon FE yesterday. It's in real good shape. Basically, this lady had it on a great deal. I ran into some issues that she had said she was struggling with, and turns out, well, I scraped them off last night, but the light seals were just gone. They were mush. So, got those cleaned up, got new ones coming in the mail. Pulled the focus lens out and the mirror and cleaned them, and it's going to be good. But I did run into some issues with this very nice zoom lens here. It's a 1 to 3.5, 4.5 aperture. What is that? 3.5, obviously. 35 to 105 macro zoom. You can see here, got the little macro button. It's good stuff, but it was full of oil. And I pulled it apart last night, cleaned it, and that was a very interesting process. The other thing I'm running into is you can see here. So it screws on like this, sits on the camera like this right here, and then the lever, can't see it. There we go. The lever pushes down. Well, this is up. So I'm gonna try and see if I can just get this to be open all the time up like this, sprung, and then have it shut for the for this. That'll be great. But as you can see, I did actually get the where is it? Where is it? There it is. Did actually get the aperture working last night. Just used, you can't see it, the phone is leaning up against some 91% isopropyl alcohol. I couldn't find any 99%, so I just used that to clean everything inside there off. So my recommendation from a guy who has no experience cleaning or doing anything with lenses, except for making this one work again, don't lubricate your lens. And if you do, because you're supposed to, I'm sure, 100% sure you're supposed to, don't put too much in there, please. You're doing yourself a favor if you don't. So we're just gonna, this is just a breakdown of the Makinon 35 to 105 macro zoom lens. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of just me doing stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not the best YouTuber, but there's nothing else out there on this lens. So yeah, so you just take these 3 top screws off, and then you just go ahead and pull. Be careful, because there is this piece here. This actually is your depth of field lever here, as you can see. This is what I'm having an issue with. It's facing the wrong way. It just moves like this every time the camera does its thing. And you can see here, this spring is holding it in the I believe that was the shut position. And so every time the camera it's not able to activate it, this should, every time this goes this way, the way it's sprung to, it should shut and open again. But right now it's sprung shut, and then if it was connecting and working as this is set up, it would be opening the lens to take the shot, which is not what you want. So I think that whoever was in here before, they put a lot of glue in here. They hot glued everything in place, which is just stupid, in my opinion. It makes repairs so much harder. You can see, like, well, you can't see, but there's like this little residue here. There's glue on that. There's glue. They glued this housing inside of here. Not sure why they did that. I'm sure maybe it looks press fit to me though, so I don't know why they would do that. Whatever. They just they do their thing. And then we'll just try and see. Can you guys see in there? No? Okay. Well, this just pops off. If you need to figure out how to get that on, there is, this is just not going to be great video quality. Anyways, there's a groove right here. You can see it right there. That groove lines up with this sliding metal piece here. This is actually how you adjust the aperture. Just slides inside that groove. There is supposed to be a bolt that sticks up here as well that is going to go in a groove on the back side of the ring here, as you can see. But yeah, that bolt is the smallest bolt on the camera and just disappears, so I'm assuming that it just wasn't there when I had it, so I'm assuming that because it's so small, people drop it and it functions without it. So I do have to pull this out because there is some dirt inside of there, which I'm not looking forward to. But anyways, this aperture adjust here. This outside ring is fixed, and this piece slides in the middle. This piece slides on this bolt, as I spoke before, or mentioned before. And basically, this just sits on the fixed ring and operates that little piece inside through the groove here and makes this move. So it's fairly simple. But I do have to pull that apart. And this is basically how, because this has a filter, so if you wanted to do this end here, you just pull the filter off. And then to get to this lens, obviously that's just how it is. But I'm not going to show you this bottom side because it's so simple. This one screw here, that's all you have to take off. Just take that one screw out and then you unscrew the lens. It's going to be a pretty annoying process to get it back on because you just have to keep backing one groove, put it on, okay, it's a little too far, back it, put it back on. It's just basically two counter grooves that screw onto each other, that's all it is. So there's no key, there's no alignments, you just have to get it as close as you want it. But once you do get it on, this screw here, actually, because this right here is how you focus the lens, this screw sits inside a channel that's attached to this piece here. You'll see it when you take it out. But it basically just hits either side of a metal shroud in there and stops it from, because this, when you're zoomed in or zoomed to infinity, basically it's all the way down in the grooves for the most part. I just had to back it off like maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And then you go all the way out this way. If you went any further on this piece here, it would literally just pop off the grooves. It's really not that far. So, but we're focusing on this side today because this is what I've noticed a lot of people are having issues with their lenses. Their apertures are sticky or they're not functioning correctly. And I just learned how to do this yesterday, so just take it with a grain of salt, please. I'm definitely not an expert. Okay, so if these screws aren't coming out, the best thing to do is just leave them in. Just unscrew them, let them sit there. It does take a good amount of pressure. Everything's old. This is, I think, 40. I don't know if this lens is 43 years old, but the camera is definitely 43 years old. And then the whole thing just slides out. So you see this little metal thing here? This actually slides. Let's see if I can show you this. This here, this metal piece, is actually, this is how the aperture works. So if you look here, this is the aperture sliding ring. And basically, as you can see, there's a little metal pin in there. Let's see if I can move this. This is the depth of field shutter, which actually, as you can see, the aperture is opening and closing. And so when you're in your most restrictive aperture here for daylight, basically your thing is locked, or sorry, your most open for nighttime apertures, it's locked open. But then when you open it up, or shut it all the way, I guess, it's always reverse what you think. Basically, this little metal thing is on a different sliding ring, or it's actually, sorry, not on a sliding ring. That little metal thing is attached directly to the aperture, fins you see moving. I'll kind of show you how that works. I'm not taking that apart again. That took me almost an hour to get back together last night. But they basically just interact together. My recommendation, if you're just taking this apart to clean it, don't touch the macro. Don't do it. That's a mistake that will take you 2 hours to put back together. And all you have to do to get that off, it's not that hard. Take this fin out and take this fin out, and then the macro, actually, you just push the button and it just screws right off like that. You can see that's how it works. It just slides on these fixed metal things and then zooms in and out by actually unthreading itself. So that's the best I can explain it. It took me a while to grasp how that works because I kept trying to line this red dot up and this macro up here on this with the numbers so it would operate correctly. And I actually had to go online and look at some pictures and see that this ring is really not important when it comes to, you know, how you have all your numbers that line up and then your zoom, it's all on top. I mean, you don't really care about this because there's a red dot. So who cares where it lines up to? Honestly, it's functional. But yes, this ring just allows it to slide. Basically, this here is this button that you release to go macro is connected to this top ring here with the red dot on it. This top ring actually slides loose, which allows these metal fins to track with the holes, and there's only so much it's allowed to move, as you can see. The red dot just goes between 1 to 5 in macro. So what that means is you have this ring here that, yeah, it just opens and shuts. Don't remove that. Yeah, seriously, don't remove that. Not unless you're really needing to get in there or your macro's broken, because it's not necessary just to clean your lenses. Now, as you can see here, this is the inside of, this is the aperture assembly. I'm assuming that's what it's called. I don't know actually. Let me see if I can get you guys a little more light so you can see it's all dark. So, sorry again, I'm a terrible YouTuber. I don't have a professional setup. So as you can see here, there are three. It's too bright now. Alright, cool. There's a bolt there. There's a bolt up here. And then there's a bolt on this side. There's 3 bolts. They're the ones that are on the most bottom. It's really it's easy to see them because they're underneath the moving parts. So basically you've got this piece that slides and you've got this piece that slides that's attached to a spring. That's your depth of field. Great. Good stuff. We're going to take those 3 off. These screws are not hard to get back in. I'll show you my little trick when I do. You're going to have to use a lot of pressure, especially if somebody fucking, excuse my language, fudging glued yeah, whoever did this before me definitely glued it. So that's why I'm shaking. I'm using my one hand to push up against the other. You do have to move the aperture assembly to get it. And then you just kind of leave them in place. And then the whole piece, this whole aperture piece, will just slide right out. It's great. And this is how you clean the inside of your bottom lens. This is how you clean the outside. It's great. I do have a filter on there, so you would just unscrew that. But that's your bottom 2 lenses right there. That's easy. Don't get to it this way unless you have to, because you can just undo this screw if you're just cleaning these 2 lenses. But if you're trying to clean the inside of your aperture here, then definitely it's an easy way to do it. But you can see now here, 1 screw, and then you've got 1 more screw here underneath the aperture, and then you've got 1 more screw here and it just kind of sits down in there on top of a ledge. You can see there, it's just a little ledge ring that's inside. It's got 3 holes. It's not hard to screw up. I'm going to just carefully remove these screws. Now, this is where things get interesting. I'm not going to break it apart, but I will show you as close as I can as what to do with your aperture. Alright, so basically your aperture here, this is it's kind of a smush ring. I don't know if that's the technical term, but it just, so you've got these 6 shiny metal pieces. Those are the underside posts that are on the aperture blades, and then you've got on the plate here, so this piece here, the depth of field, actually just sits on the bottom portion of this lens. So basically this is a ring that you have to like twist and pull out because of this metal post here. You do have to turn it 90 degrees to get it out. But basically your aperture fins, I think it's 6 or 8, it's an even number. Anyways, your aperture fins just sit on, so I would recommend you put it on the table like this when you're building it. Literally, yeah, just take these 3 screws off. This top plate comes off. You can dump your fins out because you don't want to bend them. Clean them off with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, whatever you have, isopropyl. Why did I do that? There we go. And then basically, you'll be good to go. That was my problem. Now, as you can see, because I made the mistake first of pulling this spring here off. There it is. There you go. Now you can see it. There's a spring right there. Yeah, I made the mistake of pulling that off first. Don't do that. That spring took me almost an hour and a half to get back on. Oh boy, I'm sorry. This is going to be a terrible video. Yeah, it took me an hour and a half to get back on. Don't do that. Don't be like me. So when you're putting your aperture back together, you do want to make sure that, as you can see here, this is your just blind me for now. This is your aperture sliding ring. Now you do want to make sure these screws here, don't tighten these down, just get them on there, but don't tighten them down, because you're going to notice that when you move the aperture ring or this depth of field lever here, you're going to notice that this ring slides. And you need to balance it so that it shuts down as far as it should when your aperture is, you know, closed up like it's going to be. But also, when you do open up and you go all the way into those wide settings, you need to make sure that they do that, because if you don't set it up correctly, you see here how that little metal piece slides into the groove. Well, if you tighten this down without that in that position, your aperture fins are not going to do it. They're just not going to agree. They're not going to move, and you will only get almost all the way there. It'll be like this right here. It'll be almost in that tiny groove, but it won't do it. There's like a little lip there that you're supposed to go over. So basically, what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's in this position, opened all the way, when you adjust, you know, wiggle this, get this where you want it, and then tighten these screws down. So that's part of why it took me so long. If I had known to balance it like that, I definitely wouldn't have had any issues. Now what I'm going to do, where is my lens cleaner? There it is. I just use this Equate lens cleaner I got from Walmart. I do not spray it on this, because if you spray it on there, some residue, even though it's alcohol based, it'll evaporate. It could still, you know, cause mold to grow, or at least cause some humidity inside your lens. So I spray it on my lint-free cloth. I open my depth of field all the way, and then I clean. And it works great. You can use the aperture to lock it open. Just hold it with your finger so that you don't damage your fins. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I do. That's how you take your lens apart. And when you do the reverse, if you don't want to watch the last terrible half of this 20-minute video, you can just do the reverse. Or you can watch me talk for another 20 minutes about how I don't edit videos and I'm a terrible YouTuber. So, yeah. Just picked this camera up. I felt bad. I offered $140 for the camera and lens. This is a $100 lens on eBay right now, which is why I'm repairing it instead of replacing it. And then the camera is selling for $200 by itself in the condition that she had it. I offered $140. She was asking $115, and she didn't want it. She did want nothing to do with that. So I got a $300 setup for $115. Great lady. I just think maybe she didn't know a whole lot about these cameras. Sounded like she was having issues with it, which makes sense because the light seals were toast. That's why I'm making sure that I'm ordering these. Next time I'll probably just make them out of some foam pad. But I want to make sure I do this correctly the first time at least, so that I know yes or no this is functioning. There's still a piece of dirt in there. Okay, so something I learned. Take your light, wear it on your head, look through, and you can see your cloth. And any dirt that's up against that is going to be very obvious. But I'm especially particular with my cleaning of glass, cameras, cars, windows, all of the above. It's just a little thing of mine. But if you're gonna pick anything to be super picky about when it comes to glass, definitely have it be your cameras, because the cleaner your glass is, the better your pictures look, especially with film. So yeah, definitely take the time to make sure your aperture isn't oily and your lenses are not all dirty. And the better you clean them, the better, obviously your pictures look, like I said, but the better you clean them, the less humidity issues you're going to have as well, because when you get some oil on there or you get some moisture in there, it's going to fog up your lens, and then your pictures are going to look like crap. So definitely get in there with an alcohol-based lens cleaner. It'll strip all the oils off. Do not use alcohol-based lens cleaner on treated lenses. These aren't treated lenses. There are lenses that have multi-coats on them. You're going to want to use something like invisible glass. It's like a car cleaner. It's good for window tint. Anything that doesn't have ammonia in it or alcohol in it, really, is what you're going to want to use for your treated lenses. Do not use alcohol-based or ammonia-based cleaners on lenses. So that lens is looking pretty darn good. Now remember, when you look through a lens, you're looking at the other lens. You're never really going to get to see streaks or dirt from the side that you're looking at unless they're obvious. So basically, got a smudge on there. Just keep going back and forth. Eventually, you'll get it where you want it. There's that. And then look at light. Make sure you look at light, like I said. Using that light as background right now, but if you look at light, you can tell if there's a fog on there. You'll see oily colors for any residue of any kind, stuff like that. Just make sure you get all that off. You should only see clear glass and defects of the glass. That's it. Any smudginess is oil, which is not going to do well for your pictures. Yeah, I'm actually not going to film the second half because you guys can just go back in my video. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful to at least one person. Y'all have a good day. Bye.